All right, so we're diving deep today into the world of Davis McClendon.
That's right.
This is a singer who, honestly, like a lot of people, I first discovered on American Idol.
Yeah,
But he really left an impression.
absolutely.
And we want to go beyond just those Idol highlights, right? Like,
Okay.
what really makes this guy tick as a musician, you know?
Totally.
And what's been his journey since the show?
Yeah, and thankfully, like, we've got a ton of material to work with here.
Yeah.
We've got stuff about, like, his childhood, his time on Idol, even details about his music style, what he's been up to since.
It's all here.
Yep.
Yeah, let's piece it all together, try to paint a complete picture.
Okay. Yeah.
So first things first, Davis McClendon's story starts in Pensacola, Florida, right?
That's right.
And it seems like his upbringing there, especially in terms of his musical beginnings, played a pretty big role.
Yeah, I mean, so often an artist's early environment really kind of sets the stage for their creative path.
Right.
And it sounds like growing up in Pensacola, Davis was really immersed in a community where music, especially through the church, was a big part of life.
Yeah.
That kind of like communal musical experience,
Yeah.
It could be super influential.
Totally. And it wasn't just the community, right?
Right.
Music was literally in his blood.
Yeah.
His father was a worship leader.
Oh, wow.
His mother was a singer.
So like music was just in the house.
Right there at home, yeah.
Wow.
That's got to have a huge impact on a young artist, I'd imagine.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
When music's that central to your family, you're constantly exposed to it.
Right.
It's almost like a built-in support system, wouldn't you say?
For sure.
Yeah.
Like you probably get early chances to sing or play,
Yeah.
You're watching your parents do what they love, seeing the dedication.
Yeah.
Must have been an amazing foundation for Davis, especially starting so young.
And speaking of starting young,
Yeah.
he began singing in church as a kid.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, you can almost hear that, right?
Yeah.
In his voice, shaping his style.
Totally.
What do you think singing in that kind of setting, like what does it specifically give a young vocalist?
Well, for one, I think like being in a church choir early on often helps singers develop control.
Yeah.
Learning to harmonize, getting comfortable performing in front of people.
Stage presence.
Right, exactly.
Getting over that fear.
Plus, there's that deep emotional connection to the music.
Especially in a church setting.
Exactly. The songs often have so much meaning.
It's powerful stuff.
And let's not forget the acoustics of a church.
Yeah.
It's like a natural training ground for projecting your voice, learning to really fill a space.
That's a good point, yeah.
It all ends up.
And to add to that, he didn't just sing, right? He
Right.
also learned to play guitar.
Okay, so he's not just a vocalist.
Nope, multi-talented.
That's awesome.
What do you think, how does mastering an instrument, how does that usually affect a singer-songwriter?
I think it gives them a whole other level of creative control. Like, they can really bring their musical ideas to life on their own,
Translate those ideas.
Right. From figuring out melodies and harmonies to arranging their own songs, it's all right there in their hands.
Yeah, it's that direct connection, right?
Exactly. And then in performance, the vocals and the instrument kind of blend together seamlessly.
It's like a complete package.
Exactly.
And get this, by the time Davis was a teenager, he was already performing at local events.
Wow. That's impressive.
Getting out there early.
Yeah, those early gigs, even if they're small, they must be so important for a young performer.
It's like a testing ground, right?
It is. You learn how to handle a stage, how to connect with a crowd, how to deal with different venues and setups,
Real world experience.
where you really figure out what works, what resonates with people.
What's fascinating, though, is that even with all this, the early start, the talent,
Yeah.
he still had those classic struggles, those doubts and fears about making music a career.
I mean, it's so relatable, isn't it?
Yeah. It reminds us that everyone faces those hurdles no matter how talented they are.
Totally. And those internal challenges,
Yeah,
they can be just as tough as any external ones.
absolutely.
Like overcoming self-doubt, pushing past the fear of putting yourself out there.
It's a huge part of any artist's journey.
Huge. And when they do push through, it often makes them even more dedicated to their art.
Yeah, it fuels that fire.
Exactly.
And it seems like that's what happened with Davis.
Yeah.
He took those struggles and turned them into motivation, and ultimately, that's what led him to American Idol.
To that big audition.
That's right, and the sources describe it as a really memorable moment.
Okay, for someone who hasn't seen it, what made it so special?
Well, from what I've gathered, he walked in with his guitar.
Okay, classic singer-songwriter.
Right.
Setting the mood.
Exactly, and you could tell he was nervous.
I mean, who wouldn't be, right?
Right. It's a high-pressure situation.
Huge stage, massive audience, famous judges.
But then he started singing, and it was like a transformation.
Really?
The nervousness kind of melted away, and he just connected with something deeper.
I love that.
And the song choice was perfect.
What did he sing?
Have a Little Faith in Me by John Hyatt.
Wow, what a song.
Such a great song, and it really made you think, about considering his background, what was he trying to say with that song?
Yeah, that's interesting because, that song is all about vulnerability and hope.
It is.
And that could have resonated so deeply with his own journey,
Overcoming those doubts.
Right, and musically, it's soulful. It let him showcase his voice, his emotional range.
And for the judges, for the audience.
Yeah.
It's a familiar song. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
The lyrics are so heartfelt.
It's an instant emotional connection.
It's powerful, and the judges definitely felt it.
What did they say?
Well, Lionel Richie called his voice timeless.
Timeless, wow.
And Katy Perry said he was a diamond in the rough.
High praise.
Really high praise from these legends. And for a young artist, those words must be incredibly validating.
Totally. To hear that from Lionel Richie and Katy Perry,
right,
it gives you this boost of confidence. Like, okay, I'm on the right track.
It's a stamp of approval.
Yeah, and it shapes how everyone else sees you too.
The audience, the producers.
Everyone.
And his journey didn't stop there.
He kept going.
All the way to Hollywood.
Nice.
And he just kept impressing everyone.
What other songs did he sing?
Well, the sources mention Home by Mark Broussard.
Okay.
And Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers.
Two classics.
What do you think? Why did those songs resonate so much?
I think both of those songs are just full of emotion,
Yeah.
They give the singer a chance to really interpret the words and the melody in a personal way.
It's all about the feeling.
Exactly. Home is perfect for a heartfelt, intimate performance.
Vulnerable.
Right. And then Ain't No Sunshine, you need a certain soulful grit for that one.
It's bluesy.
That's it, that bluesy phrasing, bending the notes, It's all about the feeling.
It shows his versatility.
It does. His ability to convey different emotions through his voice.
And even though he didn't win Idol,
Right.
it sounds like he made a big impact.
Oh, for sure. Success on a show like that isn't just about taking home the trophy,
More than that.
It's about those memorable performances,
Yeah.
connecting with the viewers.
Leaving a mark.
And that often leads to more opportunities, a dedicated fan base.
And it sounds like that's exactly what happened with Davis.
That's great.
So let's talk about his music, his style.
Okay, yeah.
The sources describe it as soulful and bluesy.
Which,
Makes sense.
right, those song choices we talked about.
Definitely.
But when we say a voice is soulful, what are we really hearing?
Well, I think it's a vocal delivery that's just dripping with emotion,
Yeah.
Authentic, vulnerable. It's not just about hitting the right notes. It's about putting your heart into it, connecting with the listener on an emotional level.
Like you really believe what you're singing.
Exactly. And things like melisma,
That's run.
those rundles. Yeah.
That adds to the soulful feel.
And his voice itself.
Right. Oh, his tone is so rich and warm, perfect for that style.
And we've got to mention the guitar skills again.
It's such a big part of his sound.
What do you think? How does being a skilled guitarist elevate a singer-songwriter?
It just gives them so much more control over their music.
Like a wider range of tools.
They can craft their own sound, accompany their vocals. It's all connected.
Seamless. Exactly.
It's interesting, though, because he's not just drawing from blues, right?
Right. It's more than that.
He's got influences from gospel, from country.
A blend.
Yeah, and you can hear those influences in his music.
How do those genres usually show up in a performer's style?
Well, I think when an artist pulls from multiple genres, it creates a richer, more unique sound.
It's like a tapestry.
And each genre brings something different.
Like with gospel, you get that emotional intensity.
The vocal.
Those vocal
yes.
techniques like call and response, it's so powerful.
Yeah, and blues.
Blues brings that specific melodic feel.
The phrasing, the rhythm, and that expressive phrasing we talked about.
Bending the notes, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about conveying the emotion.
And country.
Country often adds a storytelling element.
The heartfelt lyrics.
That's it. And
The-
certain instruments, like the steel guitar.
It's all in the mix.
It's what makes Davis so interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of influences, the sources specifically mention Ray Charles, John Mayer, and Chris Stapleton.
Three very different artists,
Yeah.
but all incredibly talented.
So if we were listening to Davis's music, what would we hear that points to those influences?
With Ray Charles, you might hear that soulful delivery.
The blend of gospel and blues.
Exactly, and maybe a similar rhythmic energy.
And John Mayer.
With John Mayer, it might be more about the melody.
Yeah.
His songwriting, that nuanced guitar playing, and that pop sensibility mixed with blues.
Oh, makes sense.
And then Chris Stapleton. You'd probably notice a raw, authentic vocal style,
Yeah.
leaning towards that bluesy country sound,
Hmm.
a powerful stage presence.
A force of nature.
Absolutely.
But it's not about imitating, right?
Right. It's not copying.
It's about taking those elements and making them your own.
It's like paying homage.
Yeah, and that's what makes Davis stand out.
It does. He's not just fitting into one box,
He's created his own sound.
which, I mean, in today's music world, that's so important.
It is. There's so much music out there.
So much.
You have to be different.
Yeah, having that distinctive blend of influences,
It helps you appeal to a wider audience.
people who like different sounds.
And it helps you define yourself as an artist.
For sure, it's about carving out your own space.
Absolutely. So what's he been up to since American Idol?
Yeah, because even though he didn't win,
He didn't just disappear.
not at all, he's been actively pursuing music.
What have you learned about his post-show activities?
Well, it seems like he's been doing a lot of live performances.
Which makes sense.
It's essential for any musician, to keep honing their skills, to connect with fans.
And to make a living, too.
Right, it's a job.
And he's also been working on new music.
That's great. Always create.
It shows a real dedication to his craft.
It does. It's not just about riding the idol wave.
It's about growing as an artist.
Exactly.
And he's really embraced social media.
Which is so smart these days.
It's essential, right?
It's that direct line to your fans.
Yeah, you can share updates, behind-the-scenes stuff.
Build a community.
It wasn't like that in the past.
No, it was much harder to connect with fans.
Now it's right there at your fingertip.
It's a powerful tool.
And he's been collaborating with other artists.
That's always a good sign.
What does that usually tell us about an artist?
Well, it shows they're open to new ideas.
Yeah.
They're willing to learn, to try new things.
Expanding their horizons.
Exactly. And it often leads to really interesting musical directions.
It can spark creativity.
It can.
And he's not just focused on his own success, right?
No, it sounds like he wants to give back.
He's using his platform to inspire others.
Inspiring.
Encouraging people to follow their dreams.
That's awesome.
To believe in themselves, to persevere.
I love that message.
It's powerful, and it's coming from someone who's been there.
Exactly. Someone who's faced those doubts, those challenges.
And overcome them.
Exactly.
Which kind of brings us to a bigger point.
Okay.
Success isn't just about winning a competition.
It's not the only measure.
It's about the impact you make, the path you create for yourself.
It's about longevity.
About leaving a legacy.
And in the music industry, that often comes from being authentic, and putting in the work, connecting with people on a deeper level.
It's about more than just a trophy.
Absolutely. It's about building something meaningful.
And that's what Davis seems to be doing.
It sounds like it.
So let's wrap things up with a few fun facts.
Okay, yeah. Lighten the mood.
The sources mentioned he loves fishing.
No way. That's cool.
And he's a family man, often shares those moments online.
That's sweet.
How do you think those personal details, how do they affect an artist's image?
I think it makes them more relatable,
Yeah.
more human,
Yeah.
It's a glimpse beyond the stage persona,
It's the real person.
and it can create a stronger connection with fans.
Yeah, because they see shared values, shared interests.
Exactly, like, hey, he's a dad just like me.
Right. It's that personal touch.
And it makes fans feel more invested in the artist's journey.
Like they're part of something.
Totally. It's about building that community.
And it seems like Davis is really genuine about his love for his family.
Yeah, it comes across as authentic.
Which is important, right?
Huge, because when an artist's personal values align with their public image,
It resonates.
it does. It adds a layer of sincerity,
Builds trust.
and it can lead to a more loyal fan base.
So looking back at Davis McClendon's story,
Yeah.
we see this incredible talent.
Nurtured from a young age,
We see him overcoming challenges.
facing those doubts head on.
We see him develop this unique musical style.
A blend of influences.
And then we see him forge his own path after American Idol.
Focused on his music and inspiring others.
It's an inspiring story.
It really is. His journey highlights so many important things.
What are some of the key takeaways for you?
Well, first, I think it shows how crucial those early influences are.
The foundation.
Yeah, and then the power of perseverance.
Never giving up.
And also the ongoing process of finding your voice, refining it.
And how sometimes success looks different than we expect.
It's not always about the trophy.
It's about the impact.
It's about connecting with people.
This deep dive into Davis McClendon's world, it really makes you think.
It does.
Like how those early musical experiences, combined with his ability to overcome those doubts, shaped his voice, his connection with people.
And how that connection might be even more meaningful than winning a competition.
What about his blend of genres? How does that contribute to his appeal?
I think it makes him more interesting.
Versatile.
It expands his reach.
And what about his personal life? His family, his love for fishing. How does that play into his artistic journey?
I think it keeps him grounded.
Authentic.
It shows he's more than just a musician.
He's a real person.
And that resonates with people.
It's all interconnected, wouldn't you say?
It really is. His music, his life, it all feeds into each other.
It's fascinating to see how it all comes together.
It is. And it makes you wonder, for anyone listening who's pursuing a creative path,
Yeah.
how can you bring your own background, your passions into your work?
To create something unique and meaningful.
That's the challenge, isn't it?
It is, and Davis McClendon's story shows us that it's possible.
It gives us hope.
It does. It's a reminder that the journey is just as important as the destination.
And that sometimes the most fulfilling successes are the ones we create for ourselves.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for diving deep with us.
It was my pleasure.
We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.
Looking forward to it.